What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the Struggle to Strength podcast, your source for real life application on how to turn your struggles into strengths in all things mind, muscle, and money. I am your host, Josh Levine, and I am joined here by my longtime friend and my co-host, Travis Hatch. And today, we have another absolutely bonkers episode for you guys. We have our buddy Lachie Stewart tuning in all the way from Brisbane, Australia, to talk about everything from how to find and get clarity on your purpose without hitting rock bottom. Travis has some insight on how to do that without hitting rock bottom. We talk about the 4 pillars of ownership, the 8 areas of life that we all must master to become our best selves, and so much more. Y'all, I highly recommend you guys have your notepads ready for this one. Like, if you're watching the YouTube, you'll see I even grabbed one, because there's just so much value inside. You do not want to miss it. Before we get into it, as always, we ask that if you love this episode, please give us 5 stars on Apple or a follow on Spotify. Share us on your socials. Repost this episode. Tag us in your stories. You can find me at Josh Levine Fitness, Travis at Travis Hawks Media, and Lachie at Lachlan Stewart. Tags are in the show notes. For real, get your notepads ready. Lachie is about to drop some bombs on us in this next hour. We'll see you inside. Let's go. So you're kind of mental health advocate, master of NLP, which I'm fascinated by. I actually was just at a seminar where a friend of mine, Nick, had presented all on NLP, and it was changed the way that I sell. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess we'll get into things here. So I want to, well, one, allow you the chance to introduce yourself, tell our listeners a little bit more about what you do. And then I think Travis and I both have some questions for you that honestly align a lot with just what we're interested in and what our listeners will find valuable. So yeah, Lachie, who are you? What do you do? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me on first and foremost, guys. I love being on the opposite end of the mic. It's good fun. So yeah, obviously my name's Lachie. Can be pronounced Lachie for those reading at home, which is a nice touch. But I guess for me now, I consider myself a performance coach. I've struggled for a very long time trying to work out how to categorize myself, because I've, do a little bit of PT. The fitness component is really, really important for, I believe, men getting to the best version of themselves. But I also love to work with the mindset side. So performance sort of fits in the middle there. I get to do everything that I love. And that's allowed me to, build a incredible community and incredible business of men. So we specialize with men from all around the world, where we're helping them create momentum in their life and find the best version of themselves. And that, I guess, ultimately came or was born out of my own struggles. I used to be a high level rugby player rugby's starting to get big over in the States now. Hey,
it is.
Yeah. Got a few buddies playing over there, and I've seen the LA Galantis, I think they're called. They're stacked with a lot of Aussies over there. But yeah, I was playing professionally over in France. And when I came back, I had what I would call a rock bottom point. And I think most people need to have that rock bottom point before we realize that, hey, we've got to actually take some ownership and take some control for our life here and start putting in some work. And that led me to starting to pick up my first book. And if I could turn my screen around, I've got huge bookshelves now. I love reading. I love learning. And that first book I ever read was The 4 Agreements, and it inspired me. It's quite a boring book if you guys have read it, or if anyone wants to read it. It's very, you can read it in a single sitting. But I was stoked for 2 reasons. One, I'd read my first book that wasn't like a skateboarding magazine or a motocross magazine. And secondly, it challenged my beliefs, and I started thinking a little bit differently. And that just made me so hungry to read more and to do more. And I started sharing all of the stuff on Instagram, which, thank God, Instagram was around at that time, back in 2013, 2014. And everything that I then began reading, learning, or was excited by, I was documenting, whether it was through post or video form. And it just started to build a community of people who were asking me what the hell I was doing, why I was so exciting, how I went from this to that. And that eventually led me to coaching. I never wanted to get back into, originally personal training. I was a personal trainer before footy, like when I was trying to figure my life out. And for some reason, I always thought PT was for people who couldn't do anything else. And I felt like I could do something else. But then I obviously, when I got back into it, I realized you change lives. Like you literally have this ability to give people the greatest quality of life, and then they can have a ripple effect on other people. And I obviously also got excited by the fact that what holds a lot of people back is their own mind, not their ability to achieve things. It's the mind and the confidence and the structure or planning and strategies that are holding them back. So being able to sort of then integrate all of that was one of the most exciting things possible. And I was in, what was it? I keep saying Germany or Austria. It was one of those countries over in Europe. And I was walking to get a pint and a chicken schnitzel just before Christmas. And someone DM'd me on Instagram, and I can't remember the specific question, but it made me ask myself, what did I need when I was at that rock bottom point in my life? And for me, it was to be able to have access to men from all walks of life, the young people, the old people, the hugely wealthy, the incredible family men, the people who just don't have it together, which was probably me. And to be able to sit down and just pick their brains and for them to be honest. Like, I want to find out the shit that you've gone through. I want to find out what's worked well for you, how you've overcome maybe a fight with the missus, how you deal with the negative self-talk. I want to know everything because I'm struggling with it and apparently it's not normal. And so I created an event which ended up being a men's circle, which I didn't really know what it was, but I was just like, lads, we're meeting at the cafe and I'm gonna have some questions. But it eventually just ended up being a good chat, and that grew from 6 people in the first one to 30 the next one. And obviously got too busy, so we started doing them online. And from that, it was always like, okay, what did I need next? And that built into a business that I have today, which is we've got men from all around the world that are a part of it. So it's pretty freaking awesome.
That's really cool. And is that the Man That Can project?
Yep, that's the Man That Can project.
That's awesome. I like that.
Yeah.
I like I agree. I think that most people need to hit rock bottom in order to get a wake up call. Something I've been curious about is if you have to hit rock bottom to get clarity or find your purpose as far as that wake up call goes. But I also agree that as a coach myself, that health and fitness is an integral part of bettering yourself. And it's a great place to practice bettering yourself in an environment that's relatively safe. You practice and you get better in the gym, and then understanding that you can do that in one avenue of your life does expand to the other avenues of your life. So yeah, you do get better.
100%.
But something that I wanted to ask you about was, it sounds like yes, you had a rock bottom experience. I have, Travis had an experience during COVID that kind of like forced him to make a change and start his business. How do people do that without waiting for a rock bottom? Is it possible?
That's the golden question. I honestly do believe it's possible. I think we can create a rock bottom point, right? If we can attach enough pain to something, that can be essentially a rock bottom. Like all it really is the point where you go, my life cannot get any worse than this. It's like I'm either dead next or I'm clawing my way out of it. That was essentially what it felt like for me. So knowing that is then going, okay, well, if you're really not happy with where you're at in your life right now, okay, what would have to happen in order for you to change that? And why is it currently possibly the worst space for you to be in? I had a million moments, much like you would have, Josh and Trav, you may have as well, where there's all these things knocking on the door going, Lachie, you got to change, man. Something bad's coming, like multiple things. And I just wasn't prepared to look and listen. And because I wasn't prepared to look and listen, I just kept doing the same dumb shit that I was doing until it got me right down in the bottom. So my first thing would be, okay, well, have a look at your life, right? Most of us are too busy, or we already have our head in the sand that we don't look around at what's going on. Let's take finances for an example. There's a lot of people who are living week to week, and it's not fun to do that. I did that for 25, 26, probably 27 years of my life. Granted, the first sort of 16, I had parents around, but let's take the next 9. was week to week, and I'd never wanted to look at my bank account. I never wanted to accept that. And it was painful. I couldn't, I was worried about whether I could pay for fuel. I was worried about whether I could shout my missus dinner. All these things, I was always worried about it declining. And rather than going, this is a terrible situation for me to be in, I avoided it. And because I avoided it, I would spend money on dumb shit like drugs, consuming heaps of alcohol, going to random festivals that, once again, granted, were fun at the time, but I'd wake up on the Sunday and my bank account was still in the same position, and it wasn't good. But it was obviously neglecting that eventually took me to a place where I was like, righto, dude, it's do or die now. So I believe I could have addressed that much earlier, and I could have made that the worst possible situation going on in my life right now. Much like health, right? How many, you're both in the coaching space, right? You see people who are walking around and they just look like walking heart attacks or health problems. They may be incredible people and they're just in denial. And we're on the outside going, right, well, I can't be an absolute prick and tell you this, but you're probably going to get some metabolic health disease soon or you're going to drop dead. But something has to happen. Sorry, go, Trav.
Oh, no, it's just interesting that this is the track of the conversation we're on, because I was literally having this exact conversation this morning with somebody and about like wanting to change really badly, but not being able to do anything. And the way I described it is I was like, well, you don't want to change that bad then.
Yeah.
Or you're like, what I mean is you're not drowning, because if you were drowning, nothing would stand in your way of where you are now and getting to dry land. Like nothing else matters. Your focus is not, you're not worried about anything. You don't care what anybody thinks. You're going to fucking die. You're drowning. And the only thing that matters is like getting to land. Right. And so I never had like a real rock bottom moment. I don't know if I ever would have a rock bottom moment. Just, I know exactly what you're saying before, where it was just like little things here and there. And I got to a certain point where I was like, oh man, I really want to change. And then eventually I just started feeling like really, really just kind of like lost. And I felt bad about what was going on, but I didn't know what to do. And then I just kind of had like a breaking point where I was like, I can't take this anymore. And that really just like put me in that, in the direction where it's like, nothing's going to get in my way. And yeah, I think that's the interesting thing is like, how do you make that happen? Because if you're not making a change, then there's something that it just hasn't clicked yet. Are you maybe around people that are enabling you, or like, it's not that big of a deal, we're all doing it too, so it's not, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't want to like shame people or make them feel bad about themselves, but at the same time, like there's something going on. If you want to change something, but you're not doing anything, it's because you don't really want it that bad. That's a fact.
I agree. It's responsibility. I think the only thing that changes for most people when they hit rock bottom and they realize there is no other option, you either die or you grow, is the responsibility. Because we've fucking realized at that point that no one else is going to do the work for you. I've tried everything else. I've blamed everyone else or everything else. And now the only person sitting in the shit right now is me. So that's when we go, righto, well, no one else is going to help me here. I have to do the work. And Trav, the best thing about, and you prove that it's possible, which you've just answered my question. I was like, it's the golden ticket, but you've proved that it's possible, right? And rock bottom is circumstantial, I would say, right? My rock bottom compared to Josh's may be completely different things. Mine may not even be what you would consider rock bottom. You might be like, dude, that's just a day in the life of, right? But for me, in my world, that's what it was, right? So I don't want to say anyone's is worse or better than anyone else's. It is what it is for us. But the great thing, Trav, that you did, you just took responsibility. You didn't have to go to where we did, because I was in denial. I was blaming. I was the victim for 24 years of my life. And it led me to a point that no one else was going to help me. And I needed that slap in the face to go, oi, dude, let's go. So I think for those listening, if your life isn't where you want it to be, you can keep going how you go, and eventually there will be some wake up call. There will be some rock bottom moment, and it'll be circumstantial to your life. Or if you want to avoid that, do what Trav did, right? and just take fucking responsibility for what you want from your life. If you want to be better, what does that look like? If you had an idea of who you wanted to be or how you wanted your life to be like in 12 months, start painting a picture. And that's when we go, right, I'm responsible for doing that. There's not going to be any incredible person that's going to do that for me. I can have coaches, which I recommend everyone has some coach in some area of their life to hold you accountable and to maybe point out your blind spots, because we only know what we know based on the experiences that we've had. And it's through the learning, whether it's through listening to podcasts, having great people around you who have already achieved what you want to achieve, reading books, or just life itself, we will learn. And it's through the learnings, it's through the failures that we're going to be able to become the people that we want to become.
I heavily agree with that. And I think you make a good point. Well, you've both made very good points in that a lot of times, I think most people who are listening to this podcast either are thinking about this from a perspective of their health and fitness or their career or what they're doing for a living. That seems to be where most of our demographic is. And of course, this can apply to any situation. But a friend of mine was talking this morning about how when growing up, a lot of emphasis is placed on what you want to do for a job. Like, what's your dream job? And her question was, why does it have to be a dream job? And you, Lachie, made a really good point of what do you want your life to look like? It's not what you're doing. It's not your job. It's not your career. It's just, what do you want your life to look like? And if it doesn't look like that right now, then why? And is it painful enough now to make a change? Do you really want it bad enough? Because if you want it bad enough, you'll find a way. If not, you'll keep finding excuses like you and I did until you have to. Yep. Until something breaks, and that sucks. That's a lot harder to come back from. I would have much rather done it Trav's way.
100%, I'm with you there. Trav's on the bloody right path.
Yeah, right? I mean, it's a lot faster. It's a lot less painful, I'm sure. I think a lot of times, and I don't know if you experienced this, I've suffered with anxiety and some mental health issues for a lot of my life. And a lot of times when my anxiety gets really bad, I think a part of what potentially kept me from taking initiative and responsibility like Trav did was that I was anxious about it. I was afraid. So I was stuck, or I felt stuck.
Yep.
And so when that happens, we don't take action. And of course we know that action is the way to overcome a lot of anxiety. Did you experience anything similar like that? And how did you overcome it? Or how do you recommend people overcome their anxiety in that situation?
Yeah, I think I experience it even today, not today, but like in this current time in my life, I still experience it. And, I go through days where it might hold me back for a day or two where it feels crippling, right? And I think everything that I'll share with this right now, it's once again, it's circumstantial. What anxiety feels like for each person's, their own experience. But I think if we can start talking about it more and have some strategies that you can try, right? There's so many things that you can do, but I think you nailed it there, Josh, where getting in action is the best way to stop, or overcome anxiety from my experience as well, right? I read somewhere that anxiety is just the fear of the future. And if you're in fear of the future, it means that you're not prepared for it. And there's so many things, right? We've got things that are within our control, and we've got things that are going to be out of our control. And so many of us are continually focusing on what's out of our control. And if we were to do that, that's fucking scary, man. Like that's gonna sit you on your ass, and you're gonna sit there and contemplate all the outcomes that could happen that you don't have control over. Rather than, once again, going back to what Trav did really, really well, was take responsibility. He took ownership, right? And for me, I have armbands that I give all the boys that say, you are worthy, or you are certain, or I am, it's written on them, I am certain. And so I live my life by I am certain, because I'm certain that regardless of what comes my way, whether it's good, bad, ugly, I know within myself that I'll be able to deal with it. I'll be able to overcome it. It may take 3 years. It may take 20 seconds. But I'm focusing on me, which means that if I don't know how to deal with it, I'll be resourceful and deal with it. I'll put my hand up and deal with it. I'll run through it if I need to. And for me, that helps me when I do feel, anxious or overwhelmed, just going, okay, well, if the problem does show up, am I confident in myself that I'll deal with it? Yep. Awesome. Let's move on. Let's get into action. What is one thing that I can do right now that is going to move me towards the goals that I have or the life that I'm looking to create? And that's as simple as it really needs to be. We can overcomplicate it because it feels like it's overcomplicated. Like our head's like a blender. I always use the analogy. It's like you're building the most stacked protein shake ever. You're throwing, I'll tell you mine. I put peanut butter in there. I put wheat bix in there, put oats in there. I put my milk. I put my protein. I put some berries in there. There's a lot of stuff in there. When you turn that on, and if you were to follow each individual ingredient, it is tiring. That's what happens to your mind when you're feeling that way. So what do? You might grab yourself a notepad. I've got a notepad here, and just write down everything that's going on in your head. You might be feeling anxious right now because you feel like you have a million things to get done. Awesome. Start writing everything down that you feel you need to get done. And then you'll look at the piece of paper and you'll realize that a lot of the stuff you may have already done. A lot of the stuff is completely irrelevant to get you to where you want to get to. And then you'll have a list of 2 to 3 things that you can do. Or it might be your thoughts. You might be having a whole range of negative thoughts about yourself. Like, I'll never be able to do that. My missus doesn't love me. I'm in a environment, you might walk into the pub or to the gym, and it might be your first time at a new gym, right? And they've already established a community and you're like, oh, no one's coming to talk to me. I don't feel welcome here. You probably won't have a notepad on yourself at the gym, I would imagine, but just if you can speak it out loud, it sounds ridiculous when you write these things down. Of course, not everyone's outgoing, but if I were to write that down, it's my first time in the gym. Someone hasn't talked to me. Let me take responsibility. Let me go introduce myself to someone. And the more you write it out or verbalize it, you start, it's almost, you put yourself in a position to laugh at what you're thinking. Mm-hmm. Your brain is just trying to keep you safe, which means it's going to think of the worst possible scenario so you don't act. As Josh said, we got to act to move through it. That's my belief as well. And that's what I continue to do. Sometimes, granted, it is harder to act than others. Others, you're like, let's do this. So other times you're like, I like sitting here and feeling a little bit overwhelmed today.
Yeah, I feel that. I actually really like the blender analogy. So that I definitely experienced that in my head a lot, like tons of racing thoughts. And I remember there's this one time, my mother was a therapist, and I remember I was overwhelmed and I was talking to her about all the shit I had to do, and I was just going off. And much like in your blender analogy, I was listing all the little pieces. And after I was done, she was like, okay, but when you think about it, that's like 4 things. And so, yeah, I essentially just had to write it down and bring it back to before I actually turned the fucking blender on. It was like 4 things. I was like, okay, yeah, you're right. I can do that. And that's doable. So I think there's a lot of value in that.
100%.
Sometimes it'll just be 2 things or 1 thing that I just don't know what to do about. And I literally feel like my entire life is collapsing around me because there are like 2 things that I've been thinking about all day that I don't know what to do. And it's like nighttime and I just feel like everything is falling apart. And then I'm like, all I have to do is just make a decision on like 1 thing. Like, why am I?
And it doesn't even matter if it's right sometimes.
Yeah. Like literally, like it usually happens. I feel like I get burnt out by nighttime and these things just kind of crush me. So I'm just like, dude, I'm just going to smoke some weed and go to bed. And I'm not going to think about this for the rest of the night. I'm going to go to bed. And when I wake up in the morning, I'm going to know what to do. Like, don't let this because the more it crushes you, the worse. The harder it is to go to sleep, and then that's what you need to do is just go to bed, honestly, and you'll know what to do in the morning, It
is.
I like it.
So, Lachie, something I want to ask you about. So we talk about taking responsibility, and essentially what we're talking about is something Travis and I talk about a lot, which is just taking ownership and acting on decisions. You talk about there's 4 pillars to taking ownership of your life. What are those and how do we implement them?
So the 4 pillars that we use is muscle, momentum, meaning, and mateship. And that ties into the fitness component because I don't believe you can well, as you were saying earlier, Josh, like fitness is an incredible tool, obviously, to make you feel good, but you can experience things that will happen in real life in a controlled, safe environment, and you can take those learnings or perspectives and implement them into other areas of your life. So when we look at the muscle, which is pillar one, we look at health, fitness, and mindset, right? Or it could be any muscle. It could be your relationship muscle, your communication muscle, take what you want, right? It's flexing that muscle. What does that muscle need to look like in order for you to live the quality of life that you want to live, right? So from health, most people, whether you're running a business, you're working somewhere, you have a family, you need to have a certain level of health to get the most out of that, right? You can't be walking up flights of stairs and being puffed out, or you might have your kids wanting to play chase around the house and you can't do it because once again, your energy is not there or you're stressed or whatever. So it's going, okay, for my ideal life, this is how the level of fitness I need to maintain, or this is what the standard of my health needs to be like. For myself, I set standards around my communication, right, around what I want my relationship to look like, and I have to flex that, right? I was chatting with a mate yesterday, and he was saying, it's mental fitness. It's the reps are talking, right? The reps are spending time with your kids. The reps are working on your business. That's the reps. And we go, the more reps, the more intentional reps we do, the better the outcome. So you think about that across all areas of your life, right? That's why you can start in fitness with the muscle, but then you can put it in every area. Okay, we then go into momentum. You've got to be in action. If you're not in action, as I can't even remember who, I think it was Tony Robbins or someone, if you're not growing, you're dying. Right? If you're not in momentum, you feel like you can start thinking, I'm not worthy, I'll never achieve that. You may get anxious. You may even get depressed. Right? So what's the momentum that you're creating? Are you taking action, and where are you growing and where are you developing? So that looks like putting yourself on podcasts or having conversations that you maybe wouldn't have, or identifying skills that you don't have that you need to have in order to become the person that you want to become. What does that look like? Then you go, okay, well, I'm going to learn that here. Let's get into momentum. I've put it into my plan. Let's build some consistency, and away we go. Momentum provides feedback, right? I'm either doing really well with this or I'm not. Both are awesome because we get to know where we're at. But it's also motivating when you see growth. Like I know for you guys, when you hit a new PB on the bench or deadlifts or squats or whatever, even you get to a point where you're just trying to get 1 kilo on the bar and you're like, yes, you're working a 12-week block to do that. And then it's the greatest thing because all your hard work has paid off, even though day by day it may not feel like it, it does. We then go to meaning, which I think is what a lot of people lack. We're so busy as a society. I don't know how many times you guys say it a day. I say it every day where I'm like, someone's, how you going? I'm busy. Say, well, not really. I'm just doing a lot of shit that doesn't matter because I don't understand what I really want. And my calendar just gets full of things that don't really matter. So the best place to start with that is if people go, I don't have enough time to create the dream life, or if I don't have enough time to spend with my partner or work on my fitness, I go, show me your fucking calendar. You're spending 3 hours on Instagram a day, or you're doing, continuing to go to lunches that don't add any value to your life. What's the intention of doing all of these things? So if you were to do something now, for anyone that's listening, get your calendar out. And if you don't have a calendar, well, I would probably start by getting one and write down all the things that you do on a daily basis. Whether it's, for me, it's working with clients. I've got meetings. I even schedule in my downtime. So what I do now is I treat my life like a business. There has to be an intention. There has to be KPIs. There has to be a return on investment. The return on investment for my time. So if I'm catching up with mates, what am I doing that for? Am I at a period where I just want to go sink some beers with the boys? Awesome. If not, why am I doing that? Am I doing things that really matter to me? Am I going for a surf? Am I going to play golf? Am I going to, hit a hard training session? What's the intention? Then we go, obviously meaning's a big one, but my favorite one is the mateship. And I break that down to trust, integrity, and authenticity. Within the rugby culture that I grew up here in Australia, it's awesome, right? It's a lad culture. It's a lot of drinking beer. It's a lot of chasing women. and it's just a lot of banter, right? We talk shit. And as fun as that is, it wasn't empowering me, or it wasn't the right environment for me to create what I wanted from my life. So I was sitting there many times doing dumb stuff, and I was going, man, I feel like I'm still better than this. I want more from my life than this. But I didn't remove myself from the environment for a very long time. So when we look at mateship, are the people around you, do you trust them? You may, cool, tick. Authentic, or are you allowing yourself to be your authentic self? And I love fitness. And for a long time, I was just recreational drug use, drinking beers, neglecting fitness. I felt so unhappy. From the outside, I looked happy, but I was so unhappy. So build an environment, build a community of people who allow you to and empower you and challenge you to be the best version of yourself. It sounds easy, but it's hard to do because so many of us are still hanging around the same people we went to. We call it kindergarten. I don't know, like when you're 5 years old and you first go to school, kindergarten. I know what you guys call it. Cool. Yeah. We're still hanging around with them because it's like, oh man, they're my oldest friends. It's like, bro, they're fucking so different to you. It's not funny. It's not saying that they're shit people or you're better than them. You just want different. So go find that. So if you can implement that into, once again, all areas, if you're wanting to get fit, hang around fit people. You'll start understanding their physiology. You'll start understanding what they do outside of the gym, which is what really adds more value as well, because you're in the gym for an hour a day training, but you'll get to see how they eat. You'll get to see how they prioritize their sleep. You'll get to see them maybe sitting in the sun with their shirt off, getting some vitamin D. Like there's all these things that maybe we don't know that we can learn by hanging around people who have what we want. So they're the 4 pillars: muscle, momentum, meaning, mateship.
I really like that. The last one really hits it for me because I'm certain this is kind of your thing as well. But as a coach, that's what I'm trying to build. I'm trying to build a community of people who are who want to better themselves, who want to improve in the gym in their life in so many different ways. And I have multiple coaches in my life, and all of those teams I'm surrounded by people who push me to be better. Right now, I have 4 people from my bodybuilding team staying with me in my house. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. 2 of them are in prep, and we're all doing it together and keeping each other honest, keeping each other on track. But yeah, you become who you surround yourself with. So I think that one's really important. And if you don't have those people in your life, like you said, if you're just still surrounded by your friends from kindergarten, like you said, it's not that they're bad people. You just may want something different out of life. And if you don't know where to find those people, we're everywhere. Like I had friends who were well into fitness. I still joined a bodybuilding team, and now I have 100 other friends who are well into fitness.
When you found your bodybuilding mates, was it just like you have been best mates forever? Like that's what it feels like when you find the right people.
Yep. It's like we'd been best mates forever. And I had immediately, we reached out on Instagram, all of these people from all over the country, all over the world, and immediately reached out. I mean, my friend John, who's here, he wanted to come visit. And I was like, yeah, sure. You can come stay at my house. And my girlfriend at the time was like, you're just going to let a complete stranger come stay at your house? I'm like, he's not. He's like one of my really good friends. I just never met him in real life.
That's so good.
Yeah. But the other thing is there is an explosive growth that comes from surrounding yourself with those people. And it's in all aspects of your life. That is the momentum. It seems like this is almost... it's like a circle.
No, they all 100%. They all feed into each other.
They all feed into each other, and the whole thing, all pillars gain momentum.
Yeah.
If you look at why someone's stuck, I just go through that tick box. Muscle, are you working on something? Are you in action? Do you have intention? Do you have a good community supporting you? If one thing's missing, I generally know why there's no progress happening in your life.
They're probably all lacking if one thing is missing. Yeah. Like your muscle's probably lacking if you don't have... maybe not, but all the others are probably not optimized if one of those is completely non-existent, I would guess. And I think the meaning one is, that's what I was talking about this morning. I think the meaning one, that's something that like plagues a lot of people, because they just like, they don't even know what they're doing with their time. Like there's so many people who are working jobs that are just kind of like, you're useless. Honestly, it's like a made up title for just like a person that keeps someone else's company running, and they'll give you some sort of title. I'm speaking as someone that's what I did for years. Like, years working, like they're just easy jobs to get. You go online, you go to monster.com or Indeed, you find a job posting and it's like something, whatever. And you get a job there and you just kind of like, you go through the motions that your managers taught you. But if someone were to ask you, what's your profession? You would have no answer. You don't have an answer because like having something where you can say like, this is my skill and this is the thing that I do. I think that's a huge part of the meaning, because you spend half your life working regardless. So like having something that you are proud of, that you're getting better at, that is like a valuable skill, that's going to give you so much meaning. And that's going to like catapult your momentum as well. So I think that's like a huge aspect.
I have a question for you. So I'm someone personally who hyper focuses on things, and I do have ADHD. So like I'll hyper focus on something and then be like, ooh, a fly, and then hyper focus on this. And like, I am terrible at multitasking. So when we're talking about these 4 pillars, one of the things that came up was basically self-improvement, or having something to work towards. And in my instance, a lot of times, I'm building my business. Travis is building his business. Obviously you are as well. We're very passionate about that. Is there a possibility, and how do you maintain balance among all of these things when it's easy to just want to build your baby? Like, make it everything. You put everything you have into your business, and then you're like, oh shit, I have like relationships to maintain.
Yeah. Great point. So that obviously ties it into the 8 areas, right? So within, some people have 6 areas, others have 20. I've chosen 8 because that's what works for me. So I've broken my life down into the 8 most important things that I feel are going to allow me to live a successful life or a fulfilled life. And then I implement those 4 pillars into that. That's how I feel like I've set a standard, and I know I'm working towards something, and I'm working towards something that matters. Right. So if we're looking at business, and granted, you have to sacrifice things in order to achieve, when we look at balance is once again situational based on what you're trying to achieve. So for me, the first 7 years of my business, let's say I'm in year 8 now, there was a lot of unbalance, right? But for me, it was balance, right? It was business for the first 3, where I was working from 5 a.m. till 11 p.m. Everything suffered like really bad. This was before I was even aware of what I'm about to talk about. And my missus was just like, I never see you ever. I'm like, I'm building my business. It'll pay off. Right. So I do believe there's going to be a readjustment of what balance looks like in that growth period. And I call it the umbrella effect. So if you picture an umbrella, so an umbrella, and you've got the top, which is probably the most important part. That's the frame of what you're building everything around at this point in time. So maybe it's your business. For most blokes, right, I work with men, it's generally finances and career that are their priorities, because that's an adopted belief of what we need to nail. Right. And then we've got our partner love, right? We've got our physical health. We've got our mental and emotional health. We've got our lifestyle. We've got all these things that are sort of dragging off the back of it. Yeah. Most people completely neglect that to the point they pull their head up one day and go, fuck, I've got an awesome business and I'm making a lot of money, but where is everyone?
Yeah.
And you got a big beer gut as well.
Yeah.
That's unfortunately what happened. So what I learned, because I became so skinny and gaunt, guys, like I'll try and send you guys a photo, because I was not training. I was just worked. Like,
stressed
no
out.
mate. Yeah. I had no mates around, or I wasn't watching footy or like rugby. I wasn't doing anything except for working. And I became so disassociated from the people that I was trying to help. So now that I look at it, I go, okay, well, for 12 months, I set a goal for what I want each area of my life to look like. And this year, for example, business is a big focus, but it's more so how do I create more leverage within my business? Another big part is I'm getting married this year. So the relationship is very important. So I work out what I want that to look like, and then I break it down for how much time it needs. You know, when I was saying I treat my life like a business, you know, we work in quarterly, you know, I don't know whether you do 90-day blocks or quarterly blocks, or we have to pay tax every 90 days or every 12 weeks here. So it's a good way to run a business plan and a life plan. So for this 12 weeks that I'm going into in June, it's going to be all about business. Like, it's going to be a massive focus. It means I have to say no to a lot of social things. Not that they're not important to me. It's just this 90 days, business is the goal, fitness is the goal. The 2 years prior to this, it was purely business. I was training for CrossFit and my relationship. So a lot of other things weren't the priority, but I'd still fit them in every day. So if you look at your day, right, for me, I know what makes me as a person, this is why I chose 8 areas, is prioritizing all of those things. I know that I'm going to be at work from 5 till, at the moment, I work from 5 a.m. till 2 p.m. That's when my business hours are. What am I doing around that? Where is my relationship time? Where is my own self time, my growth time? Where is my physical health time? Where am I allocating that? Because if we treat it like a business, you've got 24 hours, so you can put that time in there. It might only be 10 minutes talking with mates, but make it fucking intentional. Rather than getting, you know, like I did 3 years down the track and going, I want to call the boys, but no one wants to talk to me. So that's how I balance it. It doesn't have to be equal. It just has to be intentional in the time that you're giving. It's like, you guys would have seen it. You see people walking around the gym. They just come in, come out. They have no program, no intention, and nothing changes, but they think they're fucking crushing it because they're going to the gym. They're doing better than people who aren't going to the gym, but they're not going to gain progress without a plan and intention. So treat your life like that, in my opinion. It may sound like you're overthinking it. You can even plan free time. If you just want to do nothing and watch bloody Shrek on Netflix, which is what I do from time to time, plan just some free time to just do whatever you want. If you want to smoke some weed and go to bed, awesome. Like, whatever it is, just make time for it. It's that simple.
100%.
Does that answer your question, Josh?
Yeah, it does. I think a lot of people, like you mentioned, get caught up on having to do things all or nothing. And so I find myself going all in on my business, and I have a very extremist type of addictive personality, and breaking it down into quarters or just into like, what do I want to get done this year in all of these different areas? What do I want to get done this quarter? That actually like instantly alleviates some of my anxiety. So, because otherwise I feel like, oh fuck, like I got all this work to do. Like I'm running this new promotion. Like I got to talk to these people. I have 82 texts that I haven't gotten back to. All of my clients I have to respond to, and it gets overwhelming. So yeah, like blocking out time and organizing it. And then something that I also was thinking of is, you know, because, and I know I'm not the only one who hyper focuses. So anybody out here who's listening who has this tendency to hyper focus on things is, if I'm working and then I start responding to texts, I'm going to be responding to texts. And then that's all I'm going to do for a little while until I've responded to all of them. And then I'm going to go back to work. I'm not going to respond to those texts again until I feel like I'm ready to. And so that makes my conversation with those people less intentional. That makes my conversation just like very sporadic, very spread out, honestly, poor communication. And I understand that. So my thought was like, okay, I could either do that or I could set aside 10 minutes, like twice a day, to call someone and have like a 5-minute conversation and make it much more intentional.
And how cool is it when you receive a phone call as opposed to a text message?
I actually got a FaceTime.
I call people all the time. Like,
yeah, I got a FaceTime right before this podcast, and I was like, "What's up, dude?"
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it makes a big difference.
So it's perfect. And I think one of the things that I've done, I'll share what sort of, for me, obviously, depending on what stage in business we're all at, or life in general, you know, some people are having kids and it's like kids are the priority. But for myself, when I think about where I wanted my life to go, I've just cut off a heap of stuff in my business, like the public speaking and working with corporates. As much as it was awesome from a monetary standpoint, and I did enjoy doing it, I didn't want to be doing that in 10 years' time. It wasn't going to fund the lifestyle. So I was like, righto, it's got to go, because what really matters to me is flexibility and choice. And I've got an awesome online community, and I've got some clients that I work with one-on-one. But I also have made the decision, I drew the line in the sand, that it's 8 hours a day is on the business and also in the business, which means for me, 4 hours a day with clients, 4 hours a day working on the business. And if I don't get things done then, too bad, man. Mm-hmm. I'm either being distracted or my efficiency is terrible. But as soon as it gets to, if I have a lunch in between that, I'll finish at 1, 2. So then I'm moving on to the next things. I'm going playing golf, hanging out with the missus. It has to happen, because I don't know about you guys, but when I started a business, I had an idea that how good is it that I can do what I love, but 2, I can create a fucking cool lifestyle. And then you get caught up in business where you don't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like one day it'll happen. It's like, well, one day you might be dead too. So get cracking on it now.
Yeah. I definitely have to be better about that. I think almost everybody in the early stages of entrepreneurship has to be where, give yourself working hours and fucking stick to them. Because otherwise, I definitely found over the weekend and a few days in this, granted, I have a big launch going on right now. But I was working from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. I was like, I know I have to get this done because I gave myself a timeline and I didn't plan properly. So maybe I should work on that. But to give yourself actual working hours and stick to them. And then the other thing, like part of why I got into, I wanted to start my online business was because I wanted to be able to work from anywhere in the world and enjoy my time anywhere in the world. But I definitely see how I went on, I've been traveling to Florida, Texas, kind of all over the country here and there a little bit this year. And I struggle to enjoy my time because I'm always thinking about what I have to do for work. Yeah. So we need to set boundaries.
100% need to set boundaries. I can 100% resonate with that. And, your clients can message you at any time of the day now with, social media and technology, but it's once again enforcing those boundaries. Even with my email from Monday to Friday, it's Saturday here, but Monday to Friday, I have an autoresponder on that says I'll only check my emails at 3 till 4 p.m. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to be at the effect of other people, because most of the stuff they're asking can wait. We just feel like it's urgent because it's so personable now, getting a text message or getting a WhatsApp. You're like, they message me out of every other trainer or coach available. I got to get back to them. So no, bro, you got to look after yourself first, because if you become worn out or stressed or whatever, you're not going to be able to serve them as best as you know you can and you want to. Mm-hmm. When I finish from 9 till sort of 12 and that, when I'm working on the business, I've got the exact same process that I run through every day, so that regardless of where I am in the world, I can do the same thing. And it allows me for a 4-hour window to talk to my clients. It'll either be getting back to messages or just starting a conversation, I start a conversation with 5 of them a day, because I want to see what's going on in their life. I want to see how their training's going, but it's also a 4-hour window, because otherwise we know stuff can blow out all day.
Like my text messages.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's funny. Travis actually was recently talking about kind of the same concept that you are right now of work deadlines. And you were talking about you have some projects that are due, or you feel like you have to get them done really, really fast. And then you're kind of I don't though. Yeah.
A lot of client, as a creative, I have a media business. I do videography and stuff. And, a lot of clients, they'll have deadlines or whatever. And sometimes you go over it, and, it definitely you feel oh, maybe I need to get this thing done. But then you go, I'll go and I'll be over the deadline, for instance, and I'll come back to them and they're like, oh yeah, great, fine. Here's another project we want to work with you on. It's not it's not the end of the world. And I think if someone is enforcing unrealistic deadlines on you and trying to crack the whip, it's I don't work for you. Like you're hiring me for my business. You're hiring someone who has a skill set and tons of expensive equipment that you couldn't even comprehend. And you're going to like, if it doesn't work out, fine. There's a million other people. No, there's 7 billion other people that could be my clients. I'm not going to, I'm not going to freak out about it. And I mean, it's a constant thing. I'm always working on, cause I do, it is something, but I do enforce those, my boundaries, and I don't work late. And I do see a lot of other creative people who are like really stressed about losing a client. So they just, bend over backwards and do all these things that are making them miserable and ultimately making them not do their best work. Or like they're posting pictures on Instagram at like 1 a.m. They're like grinding, like, and it's like, man,
dude, that sucks.
I just say K. Like when I see that, I'm like, K. Like my business is doing well, and I don't do that stuff, and it's just not sustainable,
Yeah.
And people respect you. If you set your boundaries, people honestly respect you more. I think.
I couldn't agree more. It's that scarcity mindset. People think that it's, once again, going back to, people don't like to market themselves and sell. I know, because I love to sell, and I look at sales as like I'm about to change someone's life. And if there's someone giving, that it just is such a hard client, see you later. I don't care. Like, you're not the right person for me. Go to someone who tolerates that stuff. I know I'll be able to always have a full book. I know that in myself.
Yeah.
So I want to work with the people who are just like, they're like my mates. Like, I'm excited to check in how your goals are. I'm excited to go for a meal with you. I'm excited to catch up with you when I go to wherever in the world you're living. Like, that's the kind of people we want to, I think everyone should be aspiring to work with, because they're there. There's 7 billion people. You're granted to find the right amount of people to, to best suit you and also allow you to live that or have that business that you want.
Yeah.
I feel like as we improve our trade, I know Travis and I both do this, and I'm sure you do, as you have as well. But as you get better, obviously more people want to work with you because you're getting really good. We're really good at what we do. And as I get better at the service I provide, I find that more people want to work with me, but I don't want to work with more people. So if we get on a call, there's a very specific type of client that I want. And if I don't think that you're my client, I'm not discouraging you from reaching out to me. I'm telling you that if I don't think that we're a good fit, I will send you to someone who I trust, because there's plenty to go around. And yeah, I want to work with the people that I want to work with. And when you're first starting off your business, you kind of just need money. So you're like, shit, I'll take whatever I can get. And you very quickly realize, like, okay, I do not want to work with that person. That was horrible. That was miserable. But like, I really do want to work with this person. And then you can start marketing towards those people and weeding them out. And it becomes much easier to manage your client load because you're actually enjoying it.
Exactly. It's like Trav said earlier, we, there's so many people to work with, and we spend half of our life at work. So we might as well find a way to enjoy it, because not everyone, I feel like all three of us are fortunate to do what we love, right? But not everyone's in that situation. So we then got to go, okay, well, how can I find a way to value what I'm doing on a daily basis? If you're working in customer service, like, it could be, my goal today is to make someone smile. Like, it sounds ridiculous, but through adding value to people in whatever way you can, like, it makes you feel pretty fucking good. And that's why I feel like us, we're all in a fortunate position where we get to do what we love. And so therefore we would just be like anyone else who is miserable in their job if we were working with everyone, rather than saying, right, well, this is my business. This is who I am. And this is who I want to work with. So therefore I will do that. And it's not personal. It's just, I want to enjoy the time that I'm spending at work. I want to feel energized. I want to, feel fulfilled from it. So that's, these are the boundaries that have to happen.
Yeah. And understanding the power dynamic too, or the leverage. I think a lot of people who aren't the client, like in my position, they think that the client has all the leverage because they're the one paying you. And it's just really not the case because, and I think there's a few things that you can do to start to understand that. One is get yourself in one position where you need to hire somebody where you're the client and they're thinking the exact same thing. They're thinking like, I hope this person doesn't get rid of me because it's a freaking nightmare trying to find somebody else who's good at this job, who's willing to do it for this price. And, you run into all these scam artists. I mean, it sucks. Like any client who's hiring you who is really busy, they don't want to deal with that shit. They're not just like, fine, I'll fucking fire this guy and go hire this guy. Like, that's not how it works. For the most part, like they don't really want to deal with that stuff. And once you start, I think, kind of enforcing your boundaries, you'll realize that they're like, okay, yeah, that's fine. Because they don't want to deal with it either. They're kind of thinking the same thing. Not all of them, but the ones that aren't, like there needs to be that 50-50. Like the ones that aren't generally are the people you don't want to work with. So I think kind of like understanding that aspect is big. And then another thing that you can do to help with that is just learn more about sales, because the better you are at like selling and marketing, the more you realize it's, maybe I've got like, I'm the same as you. Like I'm 100% like sales based. So I'm always doing that. So, if I'm working with somebody and that doesn't work out, it doesn't matter. I've got like a huge pipeline of people that I can go, reach out to and work with. So, kind of always having that idea of like, what's the next thing? What's the next person I'm going to work with? It's going to help you with your confidence there too. Cause you're not going to feel like I need this person to pay me this money. It's like, you can find better clients if they're not going to respect you.
I think a lot of that though comes down to, all of this comes down to being able to communicate. You have to be able to communicate your boundaries. You have to be able to communicate for sales. That's why I think, honestly, whenever you guys are mentioning sales, I'm like, it's just like really good communication skills.
100%.
You talk a lot about communicating, and I think that kind of leads into a lot of the pillars and the areas. How can people get better at communicating, and why is it so hard for some people?
Oh, great question. It's a lot of us lack communication because we don't know what we want, and we haven't decided on what we want or who we want to become. So I look at communication as something that is broken down into three areas. The first being communication with self. A lot of us are lying to ourselves. We have our head in the sand about where we're at, right, and what we want. And this is not even linguistically. This is just who the fuck we are as a person. We think we're someone that we're not. So when we try to make change, we're not starting from the right foundation. My foundation might be here, but I'm like, oh, Josh is here, so I'm going to start with him, and we're skipping a few things. So we fail. But Josh doesn't, because he started from his foundation. So I think the moment, if we can start with ourselves, and it's like, okay, well, who am I? What do I value? What do I want from my life? How can I express myself? What kind of people? This is questions and conversations that we have to have up here or with a journal. No one else can do that for you. A lot of us are living like people can do it for us. We're being told by the media. We're being told by our schooling systems, maybe even adopted beliefs from our parents and friends and family, where it's like, this is what you should strive towards. And it's like, well, I don't feel like I want that. I don't think that I want that, but I'll do it because I trust you. And that's maybe not done intentionally. So starting with how we can communicate with ourselves, and then it sort of dials into how do you view yourself? How do you talk to yourself? Most people talk to themselves in a way that they would never talk to anyone else.
Very negative.
Fuck, man, It's horrible. Like if I do it still, but I'm aware of it. So then I just start filtering other things through. And you think about this, if someone were to follow you around all day, Josh and Trav, and just go, you're shit, you'll never make that sale, your business is going to fail, and they just had that on repeat all day, you'd probably start to believe it, and you'd probably want to smack them in the face.
I'd punch him in the face in about 45 minutes.
Yeah. But most people, right, and I've done it, do it to ourselves on a daily basis, and we're just like, I'll smile through life, but this is how I'm talking to myself on the inside. It's weird and wild. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people aren't aware of that. So we then go, okay, well, how would I want to talk to myself in an ideal world? Like if I viewed myself in the way I wanted to be in 12 months' time, how would that person speak to themselves? I would be going, I'm fucking crushing it. I've got an abundance of money, wealth, and knowledge. Like I'm worthy of success. Right. And I don't know, in Australia, we've got a thing called tall poppy syndrome where it's like we chop down people who are successful. One thing I love about America, and every time I speak to people like yourself, you guys are go-getters and everyone supports each other in entrepreneurship and striving for success. I love it. Like the energy is infectious, but we're completely different over here. So for when I started thinking about how do I talk to myself, I'm like, maybe I'm arrogant. Maybe I'm self-absorbed. And there's probably a difference between that, but it's like, I'm just trying to talk to myself in a way where I have belief and I'm prepared to go after what I want. And I respect myself. So if you can nail those things, awesome. So let's break it down just quickly to give some people some action steps. Get clear on what you value, right? First and foremost. Secondly, identify how you talk to yourself, right? And if it's not in a positive manner, and I'm not saying completely remove the negative stuff, it's always going to be there. I've spoken to myself in some negative ways this morning, but then decide how you do want to talk to yourself. Okay. Becomes very simple. Just get clear on that and then you're going to be able to move forward. If that were the two things, obviously there's more you can, but go from there. We then look at how we communicate with the people around us. It's another important thing. A lot of us, once again, go to fit in with the crowd, and I'll speak from my experience. A lot of the stuff that I did in the when I was hanging around in the rugby community and culture, I didn't agree with. Like we were pretty filthy in the way that we treated people, and we were violent. We were, we thought we were the Ducks nuts. Maybe like American football. I don't know if you guys ever played that, but.
Hockey, I feel like. Yeah. Rugby is very similar to hockey players.
Yeah, hockey players for sure.
You feel like you're the Ducks nuts and you're better than everyone. That's how I treated people.
Mullets and chugging beers.
Or lacrosse players.
Yeah. I didn't enjoy doing that, but I did it because that's what all the boys did. Right. So my communication with them, I was never confident or certain in myself to say, dude, what the fuck are we doing treating people like this? Why? Like, I disagree with this, or why don't I start talking about things that interest me? I never once spoke about my dreams, desires, and goals ever. No way. I didn't communicate with other people well. I didn't communicate with my mates when I was struggling. It was just like, let's toughen up, men don't cry, all that sort of stuff. Even with my family, I couldn't tell them I loved them because I was too hardened to do those things. So my communication with the outside world was very non-existent. I did that through physicality and through sport, right? Which ended up leaving me to be an angry, resentful bloke. So I had to work on communication with people. And once again, if you're communicating well with yourself and you understand what you value and what you want, it makes it easier to communicate with the outside world because you have boundaries and you have expectations. And if you listen to yourself enough, it's easy to project them onto the world. Much like we're doing here with this podcast, we're talking about things that are going on in our life and things that are important to us and what we're passionate about. That's awesome. That's us communicating with the outside world. But some people want to start podcasts. Some people want to run businesses, but the fear of criticism or failure or judgment may hold them back. They don't want to speak their mind, right? And then we go to communication with how we communicate with the world around us. And this is sort of like potentially believing in something higher, that you're here for a bigger purpose. Some people it's God, some people it's, for me, I don't even know what I believe in, but I just believe in that I'm here for, to do some good stuff, right? I don't have a specific thing, but I just believe that all the work that I'm doing is saving people's lives. It's creating better relationships. It's making people happier. That's what I believe. And how I communicate that is how I show up on a daily basis. Right? The standards that I've set for myself, regardless of whether it's for other people to see, like when you're communicating to the people around you, you're doing it for feedback. Right? How you communicate to the world around you is just how you conduct yourself when no one's looking on a daily basis. It's like the standards, the actions that you hold for yourself. Are they in line with the person that you want to be? And then, linguistically, it's like, okay, well, how do I articulate that? I don't know about you guys, but for a very long time, I used to get so fucking angry because I couldn't put into words what I wanted to say or what I was feeling. I was just like, I find myself like in a situation, I'm like shaking because I'm like, fuck, what's I don't know. And like on the inside, there's this burning feeling where you're like, I literally can't pinpoint it. And I ran a workshop probably 6 months ago. And one of the tasks we do, I made everyone do a Facebook Live. And one of the guys blew up at me. He's like, mate, you've just made me humiliate myself because I couldn't even speak on there. You know, didn't know what to say and blah, blah, blah. I was like, righto, bro, well, watch that back. And what would you have said if you had your time over again? And that for him was like that penny drop moment where it's like, righto, well, I can use that moment of not knowing what to say as feedback to learn what I would say again. It's much like podcasts or conversations. We're always going to say dumb shit. We're always going to have mental blanks. We're always going to maybe articulate things that, you know, not in the perfect way. But if we can then get feedback, whether it's from someone calling you out on saying something dumb, or you watch your video back, or you listen to your podcast back, you'll go, next time I say that, maybe I won't swear as much. Next time I say that, I'll use this word instead of that word. Next time I say that, I'll structure this differently. And because so many of us lack the ability to articulate how we feel, and this is from a men's perspective, I think females, this is generalizing once again, but are phenomenal at it. Hang around women more and learn how they wear their heart on their sleeve and start going, right, well, if you're talking about this emotion that I have no idea what it is, tell me about it. Because I want to know, because chances are I experience it too because I'm a fucking human. I just want to be able to put a word to what I'm experiencing. Like blokes, it's generally aggression, happiness, depression, anxiety. That's what we got. Mm-hmm. Build that list and then learn to articulate it. I think it's the most powerful thing to create your reality is communication. And I hope that was definitely a long-winded answer, but hopefully it wasn't too complicated.
That was exactly what we needed, honestly. Yeah. And it's really funny because I do struggle with that. I get frustrated because I'm like, fuck, like I don't know how to use words to like explain what I'm feeling. And it's challenging, but you're right. Yeah, you hang around with people who are better at it or who maybe understand and they can help you understand. It's just like, it's that mind muscle of just getting reps and you'll get better at it. And so that's something that I'm working on this. Well, I was going to say year, but we're going to break things up. I'm going to go this quarter, like I've learned in this podcast. That's something that I'm going to work on this quarter. So I'm really glad that you did touch on that because that was very relatable for me.
That's awesome. Yeah. Even a good task for you, Josh, would be film yourself doing a 5-minute video. You don't have to share it with anyone. Keep it for yourself and recap how you felt and what experiences you've had over the last 24 hours or week. And notice the language that you use and watch it back. And then go every week you might watch it back for 12 weeks and you might record yourself again going, righto, well, this is how I felt this. And you'll notice your language starts to change, how you think about it, how quickly you can recall, it even improves. It's such a powerful thing, but it's also fucking weird, man. The first time you start watching it, even now watching ourselves on this recording, when I first did it, I hated watching myself back.
Oh God, yeah. It's horrible. And you hate what you sound like too. Yeah.
Oh man, it's scary.
Yeah. But I think
then you go, cool.
It's way easier than, I've had people who recommend like, if you find yourself talking negatively to yourself, then, say 3 nice things about yourself. I've had people who say, stare yourself in the mirror and say 3 nice things about yourself. I think it's way less awkward to film yourself and talk than it is to just stare at yourself in the mirror. Like at least you get to, and you get to watch it back. I like
staring at myself in the mirror.
I stare at myself. I mean, I'm a bodybuilder. I stare at myself in the mirror all the time. But I like the value out of being able to watch it back and listen to how you talk to yourself. I think that's valuable.
We need to get comfortable with it, right? If you never get comfortable with it, how do you expect to be comfortable talking with other people, saying those things in front of other people? It's not possible. Yeah. It always starts with yourself.
Yeah. That's actually something I'm going to
do. My philosophy is that if you're trying something for the first time, and especially if it's putting yourself out there, for instance, let's say you want to start a podcast. If the first thing that you do is perfect, you're doing it wrong. Because first of all, it's never going to happen, but you're just straight up doing it wrong. Your goal shouldn't be to do it perfect the first time. It should be to do it not perfect. And then it should be to get a little bit better every single time. Because I think most people just get hung up on like, this doesn't look right. It doesn't sound right. I suck. And in reality, it just needs to be good enough. Get it out there. And as you're saying, like with something like a podcast, it's great because you can watch yourself talk and you can listen to yourself talk. And then every single time you can get a little bit better at it.
I think about the first online clients I had and my process and everything about it wasn't even a business at that point. I was just, I knew the direction the industry was going. I was like, oh, I got to get online. And like looking back on how bad I was, like I was a horrible online coach. Like the processes were terrible. I was all over the place. My protocols were shit. All I had done before that was just in-person training. And I knew a lot about how to get people to their goals, but I didn't know how to articulate it. And so it had to suck. Like if I was good at it right off the bat, I'd be like, I'm a fucking prodigy.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is sick. It doesn't happen.
Man, the first videos I made are just terrible.
Yeah. And with yours, Travis, we watch you every single time you shoot, you get better.
Yeah.
So that's
the goal.
That should be the goal for everybody who's listening. If you're doing something for the first time, like, yeah, you're going to suck at it. Like the first time you go into the gym, you're going to suck at it. Lachie, you mentioned something earlier. I forget when this was mentioned, but you were talking about building upon things. And I think this was, I forget where we started here, but it was about building upon things and building a foundation. Like, yeah, if you go into the gym and you see some guy deadlifting 405 pounds, and you're like, oh, sick. Like, I can't be that far behind that guy. Like, I'm just going to start at 3 plates and we'll see how it goes. Like, you're going to fuck yourself up. And if you don't, like, eventually you're going to get really hurt. But if you put in the time to establish a foundation, learn how to move, learn how to lift properly, then you're going to blow way past that guy. And the same thing happens with all other very aspects of your life in all of, even the 4 pillars and your 8 areas. Like, build the foundation and then build upon it and aim to get better every time. That applies to everything.
Couldn't agree more. It's the best question is what's next, or what's the next step for me, not for anyone else around you, for me. Like if you've never been in the gym before, probably the next step for you is to join a gym. Then once you join a gym, I would say the next step for you is get a coach, because if you've never been, you need to be taught the right way, and then go, from there. But everyone, social media is an amazing tool, but it's also equally as detrimental, because we see all these people who are blowing businesses up, who are getting super fit and strong, doing wild things, and we don't understand the journey that they've been on. We just want that. We want the outcome. It's that instant gratification world that we live in. We don't see the hard work, the long hours, the sacrifices, the failure that goes into that. And all 3 of us here have experienced all of that. And we're going to experience a whole heap more of that as well. I guarantee it.
I hope so.
Right?
Honestly.
Yeah.
That's what
right?
keeps life like,
yeah,
it's like a fun game if you do it right.
Yeah, failing is like, you have to fail.
Yeah.
If you're not failing, you're like not trying hard enough.
Yeah.
Essentially. Yeah. So speaking of that, I mean, we're I feel like we could talk forever, but we're at like an hour 20. Speaking of what's next and asking what's next for you?
Mate, so personally, I'm getting married this year, which is exciting.
Congratulations. Hell yeah.
So that's a big one. It's an exciting one. And then professionally, now that I've gotten, I guess, shut down for the time being, a lot of the corporate and the speaking is building our inner circle, the online space. So it's already fairly big, but now it's like I want to improve the customer experiences and the connection elements of it. So working my ass off to build and foster the community. So that's exciting for me. It's a bit overwhelming at the moment because we already got 900 guys in there, but trying to deliver a better experience and get more one-on-one time with them is what I'm working towards.
That's awesome. It's a cool thing that you're doing too, just basically improving lives. And it comes obviously from your love for coaching and helping people. So I heavily relate to it. I think it's an awesome thing.
Appreciate it, man.
But so yeah, we're at like an hour 20, and if anybody can tell, yeah, we could probably keep on going, but we don't want to keep everybody here for too long. So before we let you go, Lachie, obviously, I think most of our listeners are going to really enjoy what you had to say, and I want them to be able to find you and find the Man That Can project. So why don't you give yourself the plug, tell people where they can find you, where you're going to be, either online and in person, and just let us know where you're at.
Awesome. So the easiest place is the website, themanthatcanproject.com. On that, you can find all that sort of stuff, the podcast, everything like that. But I'm hugely active on Instagram, which is at Lachlan Stewart. So that's where you can find me. And then once the borders open up, I'll be coming over to America because we have a great group of Americans that I want to come out and visit as well, probably connect with you guys in person as well. But
hell yeah.
Yeah, for the moment, I'm based around the east coast of Australia.
All right. Well, if we're ever back in Australia,
I'll be.
Yeah.
We'll come visit you.
Yeah. I need
down.
an excuse to get down there and make it a business write-off. So
Let's do
count
it.
me in. Let's go.
Make it happen.
Yeah. Well, Lachie, thank you so much. This has been really valuable. I mean, honestly, this is part of my favorite part of podcasting is being able to connect with people like you and learn things that we're interested in. And it just so happens that our listeners find a lot of value in it too. And I know they will in this one. So I appreciate having you on, man. It's been really great. And I think our listeners are going to love it. So thank you to our listeners, everyone who's tuned in to another episode of the Struggle to Strength podcast. We'll see you next week.